Geometry 1.5, it talks about angle relationships. So basically what we're going to be talking about is angles and different properties of angles that you should know. A lot of it you'll be able to put on your flipper, but some of it you just need to naturally know and memorize. So some of it we're going over our vocabulary, which please don't forget to go ahead and do the vocabulary first, and then go ahead and write this, pause, and write what's on the board, and then play so we can go over it. Adjacent angles basically means neighboring angles. So you see right here where you have two angles, angle ABD and angle DBC. Not only are they neighbor angles, but they share a side, and in this case, which side would they share? It would be BD. Okay? So that's the term of adjacent angles. They're neighboring angles. Another important term is vertical angles. Now I have two examples here. The definition of a vertical angle are two intersecting lines. This one is two completely intersecting lines. This one has one complete line and then it just intersects. So this right here is not a vertical angle. It has to be two complete lines that are intersect at a point. Okay? And the thing with vertical angles is you always have to remember, like when you hear vertical angles, you should always know that they're always equal. So what I mean is these angles, this is a vertical angle, so that means ABE is equal to DBC. These are vertical angles. So angle ABE is congruent to angle DBC. Remember, when naming angles, the vertex has to be in the middle. Now we also have another set of vertical angles. So when you have these two intersecting lines, you have two sets. And they're not equal to this, but they're equal to each other. So we'll put two curves on there. So we have angle ABD is congruent to angle DBC. Okay? So we have two sets of angles. This is a vertical angle, and this is a vertical angle. And they are, again, what? Always equal. The next thing we have is what looks like the one that wasn't a vertical angle, but it's a linear pair. And basically, what it means is if you took a line and you split it up, the two angles become a linear pair. And the great thing about a linear pair is, just like vertical angles, if I say vertical angles, you think equal angles, okay? With linear pair, automatically you should think line. And a line always equals 180 degrees. This means that they are always supplementary, okay? Supplementary and complementary are two vocabulary words that you should know automatically. If I say supplementary, I mean that the angles are 180 degrees. It could be 3 angles, it could be 4 angles, whatever it means, but it just means 180 degrees. That means it creates a straight line. Okay, so linear pair, you think line, supplementary. Complementary means 90 degrees, and that's when we're dealing with perpendicular angles, which is right angles, which we're going to go over next. So if I hear complementary, it should be 90 degrees. Supplementary is 180 degrees. And those should come automatic as we're doing the homework. The final one we're going to go over before we go into our examples are perpendicular lines. Okay? Perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect, but they intersect at exactly 90 degrees. 90 degrees means it creates a 90-degree angle. That's what that little box is to show me that this is 90. And because this is 90, okay, and this is two intersecting lines, then the vertical angle across from it is 90, okay? And this make a straight line, making this 90 degrees and making this 90 degrees. So ultimately, okay, because each of them makes a straight line, if one is 90, the other has to be 90. So ultimately, perpendicular lines create 4 90-degree angles. Okay? The sign for perpendicular is this. So line AB is perpendicular, that's the symbol for it, CD. So if I want to show that two lines are perpendicular, when your book wants to show you the two lines are perpendicular, you would put this symbol right here. first example, it has this illustration, so please don't forget to be pausing after I put up every board so that you can write what's on there. Our first example is asking us is to name two angles that form a linear pair. And the term linear pair means a straight line, but it also should give you a number. What's that number? 180 degrees. Okay? So basically it's just asking for two angles that create 180 degrees. And I can find, you see this is the line? These three angles put together are a set, they make 180 degrees, but we're looking for two angles. So on the other side here, two angles could be angle VZX and angle XZW. Do you see those? VZX and XZW. 115 plus 65 should give me 180 degrees, creating a linear pair. Now you also could do these two right here. So angle YZV and angle VZX. This angle, 65 and 115, make 180 degrees as well. So I have any of those two choices that form a linear pair. The next one is to name two vertical angles. So again, I'm looking for two intersecting lines, and from there it's the ones across from each other. So if I look here, if I ignore line ZT, okay, if you just looked at that, you could see that there's two intersecting lines here and an intersecting line here, okay? And since these angles are equal, these would be vertical angles. So a set of vertical angles would be angle VZW, okay? Are vertical angles, and it's equal to XZW. The thing with this is also, even if they didn't tell me that this was 65, because they're vertical, I can assume that they're 65 degrees, because vertical angles are automatically congruent. So your next step is, your first set of problems is to page 45, numbers 1 and 2. So page 45, numbers 1 and 2. Our last example, and that was only example 1, and we just skipped to example 3 for some reason. I'm going to change that. Our last example is requires a little bit math, and it says find x so that line KO and HM are perpendicular. Sometimes the book or the problems you have will give you a lot more information than needed. This right here gave me so many of these angles and so many of the lines, but the only thing I need to focus on is this. And it's telling me this symbol. And if you look back in your notes, this symbol means what? Perpendicular. Perpendicular, it automatically means 90 degrees. Okay? So this should create a 90-degree angle because they intersect. Okay, this should be the other 90 degrees, and here's another, and here's another. Okay? But we need to focus on this one, okay, because this is the only one that gives us equations, and it wants us to find x. So no, they're not equal to each other. It doesn't tell us that, but it does tell us that together they make 90 degrees, and 90 degrees means that they're complementary. 180 is supplementary, 90 is complementary. In this case, we're dealing with complementary, so we're saying that 3x plus 6 plus 9x equals 90 degrees. Okay? Leave the degree sign off. So 3x plus 6 plus 9x equals 90 degrees. 3x plus 9x is 12x plus 6 equals 90 degrees. My next step is to do what? Subtract 6 from both sides. I get 12x equals 84. Then I divide both sides by 12. This gives me x equals 7. And that's all it's asking. It's not asking us to find a line or the entire angle. It's just asking us to find x, and we found x. So we just solved the problem. So your last problem is to do page 45, number 4. Page 45, number 4, and bring it in with the other two along with your lecture. And I will see you tomorrow.